host, Doug Sparks, editor-in-chief of Merrimack Valley Magazine, and you get me in interesting time because we're at the end of our production cycle, getting ready to release the March issue of the magazine, which is our busiest time. And it's been a strange issue because I was sick multiple times. I had pneumonia. I had the flu. I had is there a flu C? You know, it's like A, B, and C. I feel like I was getting into flus that so it was a really, especially around early January, it was a really interesting time putting together a complicated, dense issue with a lot of stuff going on. And
how many days before the stand do you wrap?
Well, it sort of depends. So I'm editorial, so I kind of have to be done before everybody else. Mm-hmm. So we're proofing today. So what happens is we'll go through different proofreaders. They go through, and then I kind of look at what they did, do a final proof. And once the proofing is done, I get to kind of brew a pot of tea, kick back, relax, breathe,
and read it all for the 20th time.
And but I relax. And so my finish line is proofing when I'm done proofing, and we've kind of gone over them and corrected them, but that's me. The people doing graphics and creative sort of stuff are still pushing on and still have quite a bit of work to do. But I get to breathe a little bit easy. So Friday's kind of the day when I get to, and then finally, if you've emailed me over the past week and I haven't got back in touch with you, you know what's going on. I will be emailing everybody Friday and Saturday.
While we're just about starting the Ask the Editor, let me ask you an editor question.
Sure.
Do you find it harder to proof yourself?
It does not make a difference. No? Proofing is very mechanical.
Yeah.
What I find hard...
Because I miss my own mistakes all the time. If I'm reading somebody else's pieces, I can pick things out, but...
I'll do tricks. So I will mostly edit my own work on a laptop. Mm-hmm. But if I really need to get in there, I'll print it out because it looks different, and you'll spot things that you don't.
Yeah.
Like a paper, on a piece of paper, you can spot things you don't if it's on the laptop.
Oh, that's interesting.
But otherwise, it's pretty mechanical. The only issue isn't whether it's mine or someone else's, it's how much I've looked at it, because your eyes start to see things that aren't there, and you'll skip over a type error. Like there might be a verb missing,
right,
and you've read it so often, your mind will put the he was there, but the was isn't there.
But that's me with my writing. I know what I meant to write, so I hear what I wrote as opposed to what's actually...
So there's tricks you do, you slow it down, and everybody misses stuff when they proof, which is why we have multiple people proofread. You just have to, because everybody's going to skip over certain things or not pay attention to certain things. It's part of the process.
All right. Ask the editor?
Sure.
Rob asks, and this is an interesting question, especially the back half of it, has the job of an editor changed much over the last few decades, and does the medium itself make any difference?
Yeah, so there are different types. It's a tricky question to ask because there are different types of editors, right? There's the editor of, like, Vogue magazine, editor-in-chief, where you assume he or she is sort of steering the content, steering the direction. And then there's like copy editors, proofreaders. There's all sorts of people in the chain. And a editor for a newspaper in Cairo, Egypt in 1963 is doing a very different job than a copy editor at the New York Times in 1963.
Right.
So it really depends, and certain things have changed, of course. I mean, there used to be in this country, there was this you would sort of come into the profession and you would lift things. You would dust and you would push the broom, and then maybe you start work on obituaries.
Yeah.
And you'd have that for a while, and you would slowly make your way up, and that doesn't really happen anymore. And there was also just culturally, it was very different. It was male dominated, and you hear stories about like Time magazine or something like that, where every Friday they would wheel out bottles of whiskey and bourbon for people to drink, and they were still on deadline, still pushing, but a more of a kind of cowboy atmosphere, and that to maybe like something like Vice that still existed 10 years ago, but it doesn't exist now. Maybe that's a good thing. We certainly do not wheel out the whiskey bottles on Friday afternoons.
Another reason I'll never write for you guys.
Well, we'll
make an exception.
Maybe we'll handle that after once we've hit the deadlines. I think in general, though, the personality types are the same. The people who edit love language, and they like working with the language, and they're drawn to that. And you also have to, unlike, say, like academic writing, you have to get an adrenaline rush from deadlines. Otherwise, you're just going to be stressed out. So you
Right.
kind of have to look like, you have to enjoy the experience of the sort of puzzle solving. Like, there's no way I'm going to be able to figure this out and how to retool this line or this paragraph
Right.
in the next 15 minutes, and yet I must do that. And get in sort of like, oh, okay. But when it happens, it's this great
Yep.
feeling. So you have to. So I think in general, that aspect, the personality types of people who go into editing are probably
Yeah.
the same.
You guys are different people. You're
Yeah.
totally different people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you come from a different pool because writers are totally different people than editors.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're a small publication, so
Yep.
we're different. We're different because, and our culture is going to be very, very different from a newspaper or. So I do a lot of writing,
Yep. Yeah.
and I I have to wear both hats.
Are
But
there-
it is different. It's
There
like
are no
a switch
editors
goes
who.
off.
There are editors who don't write, but there are no editors who didn't come from writing.
We've
correct.
We have tried. Sure, we have tried to get our copy editor, who's brilliant. He's down in Connecticut.
Yeah.
He's the only person who works for the magazine who is not local. He's a brilliant guy. We've tried to get him to write because he's so knowledgeable about the English language. Figured, and he's a little bit cranky, So we figured let him
that's
go
from
on
editing
about his
writers.
pet
That's what
peeves.
that's from.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's a guy, John McIntyre, who has a YouTube channel. He's a copy editor, and you'll see on the YouTube channel is this giant bottle on his desk that says "Writer's Tears."
Yes.
There is this sort of confrontational you do start to get a little bit of pleasure from deleting things and tweaking things and
Yeah.
going in there, for sure.
It's adversarial, but it's two people in a foxhole, though.
Sure.
Writers love editors.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but in the big picture, we do.
Okay.
You,
Well, I
you
hope
save
so.
our butts
I
more
hope
often
so.
than not.
Yes.
Lily asks, with all the social media platforms out there, do you find that each one has its place, or is there a paradox of choice and social media isn't as popular as we think? I just can't imagine that everyone is on everything. What have you found in your circles to be most popular?
I'm not on everything. I'm not on like Snapchat. I sort of drew the
Yeah.
line, and there will be things to come, and I won't be there, and I'm okay with that. I do find that the different platforms have different purposes.
Yes.
So, for example, Facebook right now. Facebook, everybody following me on Facebook probably knows me in person or has a mutual friend or something like that. So there's a personal aspect to it.
Right.
On Instagram, it's different because I'm following people based on their interests for the most part for me.
Right.
And I suppose I should distinguish between what I'm doing personally and what the magazine does, what you're doing professionally. Right. And then there's Twitter. I don't like Twitter. I don't like reading Twitter. I'm on Twitter. And Twitter's really, really important for certain professions. So, for example, editors. I mean, some of the people I follow on Twitter are copy editors because it's great to watch them go back and forth and argue and break down different problems that arise and look at articles that come up in the news and break
Sure.
apart what the
Yep.
issues in the language are. It's great. So there's a handful of people. I follow a number of people, a lot of people on Twitter, but the ones who I'm really paying attention, I'm also looking for news stories and things like that. But in the stuff that excites me is to look at the work of, and these guys are copy editing, they're doing their job, and a lot of them tweet all day about what they're doing. So it gives me insight into what's going on at Random House and what's going on in the New Yorker because I can kind of look past the veil.
Twitter is a social pulse. You just sort of check in to see what's going on,
Yeah.
who's talking about what. And,
In real time.
yeah.
And that's what it is at its best. I find that aspect of it can also be pretty overwhelming.
Yes.
And I just don't want to have to, in my head, argue with everything and be annoyed by everything. Or you know what I mean? I don't want to have to take a stance against Bob Dylan says you can't, I think one of his lyrics is, you can't open your mind to every particular point of view.
It's true.
And I think that's exhausting. I just feel exhausted by that process of constantly listening in on these threads about things and trying to formulate my own opinion.
Yep. It's like walking out the door at the Mount Washington Observatory.
Yeah.
It's one thing inside looking at it. It's another thing stepping into the storm.
Right, exactly.
That's what Twitter is.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's it.
I
do
believe
we
there
have
was one more important question that you missed.
Oh, what's your favorite Donnie Benet? I don't know who Donnie Benet?
My favorite Donnie Benet song.
Tracy asked that.
Tracy asked Donnie Benet, and I'm going to turn that around a little bit. If you don't know who Donnie Benet is,
don't. Yeah.
You should.
Okay.
He is a singer, songwriter, performer, charismatic. He has a magnetic sexual personality, I would say. And he's in the genre what they now call post-disco. He's a post-disco performer from Australia.
Ooh.
So I'm going to turn it around. There's so many Donnie Benet songs that I like that I would ask Tracy if she would be willing to post her favorite in the comment section underneath. And if you happen to have, anybody else listening has a favorite Donnie Benet song, I'm sure a lot of people don't know who he is. They would love to see some videos right now in the comment section.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll dance at the end of the. If we have time, there'll be dancing.
It'll get me involved with Donnie Benet. I haven't been involved yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your feet will start tapping and your hands will start clapping.
Okay, cool.
Guaranteed.
Yep.
So today we have a very special guest. Ken Taylor from Plum Island Kayak is here. We met during the Voyagers expedition. Not everybody's going to know what that is, but that was a group of community leaders who went the entire course of the Merrimack River. And we were in kayaks, and we got those kayaks from you. So the first time I ever met you, I was getting fitted, and you actually, I don't know if you remember this, but you spent a lot of time with me, because I'm kind of a big guy, trying to make sure, and I did end up getting this kind of massive red kayak.
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember.
Okay,
yeah.
right. How did you get involved with them, and how did you meet? Was it Lane Glenn who initially got in touch with you? Lane Glenn is the president of Northern Essex Community College.
Well, before I answer that question,
Yeah. Okay.
your next year's trip, I'm going.
Oh, really?
I'm going to go.
Okay.
I'm inviting myself.
Really?
So you get no help from me
Okay. So
unless I go.
okay. So
I really want to but
well,
another-
this is something for Lane, I think, to answer. Maybe he'll chime in on the comment section if
he's going to have to.
He's watching. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be different this year, and I think the publicity was so great that it's possible quite a few people are going to want to go.
But
Okay.
you guys spent 4 days in tents and bushwhacked.
Yeah.
I want to spend 4 days kayaking.
Yeah.
4 nights hotel.
I think you're not the only one who would want to do that for sure, because I only did half the time, but it's not easy. And actually, this is one of the interesting. And I wrote a story about this, and I don't get into it that much in the article, but there were some politicians on the Voyagers trip from different. We had Republican, we had some Democrats. Everyone got along well. What struck me about them, beyond the politics, was I just incredibly kind of hardworking people, because I was sort of like, oh, it's 6 o'clock, I'm exhausted. I've been on the river all day. I'm going to kick back and relax. And all of them were like still going. Just really, really hardworking group of people. Yeah. So, anyways.
It was a tremendous undertaking, and I give you guys a lot of credit. 117 miles.
Yeah. So it'd be cool if you made it out there. And since you, in a sense, you were like the George Martin from the Beatles. Yeah. You were like the fifth Beatle anyway. Because without you, that whole thing wouldn't have happened. It'd be very, very cool if you were out there, and maybe people will be joining you.
I'm so glad I could help.
Or glamping. Do you know what glamping is?
Not quite
Glamping's
sure.
like, what is it, glamorous camping? Is that what's for?
Yeah.
So instead of doing the tents, maybe a little glamping.
That's what you need.
Yeah. So how did you get involved in kayaking? When did this start with you?
Well, I'll kind of back beyond that. I used to be an engineer for Duracell for 20-something years, and I had an old mentor there, and he told me, and I was dragging my feet on going back to school and finishing up my schooling, get my engineering degree, and he was an old Chinese from 1941, graduate from MIT. He took me out in the courtyard, we sat down, and he said, Ken, if you don't get moving along a certain path, you're never going to get anywhere. And your path, you never know where your path's going to take you. So I took his advice, I went back to school, I got my engineering degree, I did engineering for about 10 years and got laid off. So you never know where your path's going to lead you.
Yeah.
From there, I decided I'm done with the big corporate world. I want to do something for myself on my own.
Right.
And my hobbies, my joys were kind of individual sports kind of things. kayaking and surfing and bike riding and running. I thought, wouldn't it be nice to couple some kind of a business with one of my joys?
So you were interested in sort of outdoor activities before you got into this, and was that something you did when you were a kid? Did you start getting interested as a teenager? When did you first realize you wanted to be out underneath the open sky?
I think that goes all way back to my childhood.
Yeah.
I was always doing something outdoors, either building.
Were your
a tree
family
fort.
outdoorsy types, or was it
No,
just
not
you?
really, because I grew up in the city.
Okay.
So, but I was always out
Grew
there.
up in city, meaning Boston.
Just outside Medford.
Medford. Okay, Medford. All right.
So
Okay.
I was always outside doing something, either building a fort or a soapbox, or out collecting snakes and grasshoppers.
If you grow up in the city, where does that come from?
The what?
Wanting to be outside and playing with the snakes and the snails and that sort of thing, because it's not in the environment, right?
Well, if it's in you, you find it.
Yeah.
You find it. I had an older brother. I have an older brother, and him and I, we held hands for the first 15 years, and we found all these little things to do, and always outdoors, and we were never, and that was 50 years ago.
Yeah.
So there really wasn't that much to do indoors. It was always something. If you're going to find something exciting, it's going to be outdoors.
Yeah. Right. And you live, so in general, your life trajectory has gone in that direction. You live in Maine right now, right?
I live in southern Maine, Berwick, Maine right
So
now.
you have to commute all the way to Newburyport for Plum Island Kayak.
That's right, yeah.
And how long is the drive?
About 50 minutes.
50 minutes.
You know, when I was engineering, people in the professional world, they don't really think much about, well, I have to hop on the train, drive into Boston, it's 45 minutes, I read the newspaper. Before I get to work, it's an hour.
Yeah.
So an hour commute is typical. It's common. When I say typical, it's common.
Yeah.
So people here, I live in Maine, they think, wow, that's an awfully long drive. But 45-minute drive is common.
Right. So when you started the business, you started in Newburyport? Did you first open in Newburyport?
I
Have you
did,
always
yep.
been there? Always
Yep.
the same location?
Well, there's minor adjustments.
Okay.
Buildings, but it's always been in Newburyport.
Yeah. And for people some people think, I think I know that place. You do know this place, because as you're driving into downtown Newburyport, it is the big, colorful kayaking shop on your left as you're heading downtown. Is that fair
It's almost right under the Route 1 overpass.
Okay.
Right there, right by Michael's Harborside.
Yeah. And what was the business like in the beginning? Were you terrified that it wasn't going to take off? Did you get enthusiasm right away? What were the early days like?
When we first started, what really strikes me is the locals in town, all the local businessmen. A lot of the old fishermen type, they don't like to see new businesses. There's a big pushback. We want to see Newburyport. They're telling me that we want to see it like it was back in the 80s, which was not a very nice place.
Yes.
Now they see all this new money coming into town. They wanted it all for themselves. They're pushing the new people out, and they were telling me that this is the Merrimack River. You can't put people on the Merrimack. It's too dangerous. You're going to kill people. So they're pushing us out for different reasons. There's big resistance, local resistance, but we quickly showed them that it's very doable.
Wow. So you were also sort of on the vanguard of just getting people out to the Merrimack River.
That's right.
And did you have, was that a hurdle that you were facing right from the beginning? The people like kayaking on the Merrimack River, that's
It's a continuous process.
Yeah.
So I think now people come to us a lot more freely, a lot more willingly, because they've seen us out there for so long.
Yeah.
They look and they say, oh, they've been out there for 20 years doing this. Nobody's getting hurt, and they're successful at it. At first, you had to kind of encourage people. It's the Merrimack River. Oh, it's kind of dangerous. I'm scared. Scared.
Scared.
I'm scared.
I mean,
but it's a gradual process.
yeah. Wow. So, hey, Lou, do you have any questions for? Yes, you're a Newburyport guy too. So, if you've seen the business,
I was interested in the resistance you get from businesses in town, especially harkening back to the '80s, which weren't a very good period for Newburyport. But we grew up with the fact the mouth of the Merrimack is one of the most dangerous pieces of water. But the fact of the matter is, a quarter of a mile from the mouth of the Merrimack, it's Chopper Flats. It's beautiful out there kayaking. So I can understand why people initially would have reluctance to kayaking out there, because those of us raised on the river, hey, Merrimack's dangerous out there. But Newburyport Harbor is not dangerous. Upriver is not dangerous. Parker River is not dangerous by any stretch.
Well, so I have to ask something though, because obviously it's safe, but at the same time, people like to hear the shark stories. You get out there a lot, right? Do you get to get out on the boat? Do you have time while running the business?
On which boat?
On a kayak or any boat?
Oh, yeah, every day.
Okay.
Just
So have you been out there during a storm? Or have you seen the sharks? Or have you personally dealt with something that was terrifying when you've been on the water?
Yeah, but we wouldn't take clients out into those types
Yeah,
of
I know,
conditions.
but I still want to hear about it. What, have you seen sharks?
Well, in the Merrimack River, people ask me that all the time.
Yeah.
There's seals in the river.
Okay.
And we love to take people out to see the seals.
Okay.
It's a great trip.
And you do other like horseshoe crabs, which I was surprised.
Yeah.
So how do you find the horseshoe crabs around here?
Let me get back to the shark.
okay.
Let
All
me get
right.
back to the shark.
Okay.
Because it's an
Good.
interesting you bring that up.
Okay.
Because I hear that all the time because we do take trips out to see the seals that are in the river.
Yeah.
And people hear all this hype about seals, sharks eat seals, therefore there's lots of sharks in with the seals.
Yeah.
Now, since it's in the river, and the only thing that's going to bother a seal, take out a seal, would be a great white. We do have great whites around here. I can't say there's no great whites, but great whites are unheard of coming into the river.
Okay.
So it's a saltwater fish. Saltwater fish really can't come into fresh water.
Okay.
So there aren't any sharks in with the seals in the river.
Yeah.
That's why the
So I don't
seals
see
are
sharks
there.
in the river.
That's why the seals are there.
Yeah.
Get away from the sharks.
Yeah. So what about what's the? Have you ever faced anything dangerous though when you've been out there? Have you been out there during a storm or
I have
where the adrenaline's pumping and your heart is racing and it's like this is intense.
The Merrimack River, it can be very, very safe, and it can be very, very challenging.
Okay.
So you have to be very, very careful on the timings that you select to bring the people out.
Yeah.
People go out and they see the Merrimack River is roaring in one direction or the other direction. And I give classes and I teach this, the navigation of the river. I tell people the average speed of the Merrimack River is 0. So there's no movement in the river if you average the speeds, because it goes upriver just as fast and just as long as it goes downriver.
Yeah.
So that means at times it's very dangerous and very fast. That's when you don't kayak. And there's lots of times, 4 times a day, when it's 0. There's no current at all. So you want to specifically time your tours when the river's very calm.
Yeah.
Get in, get out when it's calm. But I have gone down the river when it's really roaring, just to try it out. And it's really not the speed of the river. It's not how fast it's going. It's, people say it's dangerous. People get hurt. At those times, it's not the river, it's not the speed, it's the obstacles in the river.
Okay.
So if you just put a kayak and you go flying down the river at full bore, at 9 knots, it's fine. There's no problems at all. But if you're going 9 knots and you run into a stationary dock or a stationary boat or a boat that's coming the other way, that's your problem.
Yeah.
So I have gone down the river at 9 knots and through some obstacles and across rocks and all that,
Yeah.
where it is pretty hairy, or trying to get out the mouth of the river, which we never do with clients. There's multiple reasons why you wouldn't go out the mouth of the river.
Okay.
But I've experienced it. I've tried it in very difficult conditions, and it is very hairy.
Yeah. So that's much more advanced. So you're not taking the kids classes out there for that.
We never, for any reason, go out the mouth of the river.
Yeah.
There's multiple reasons for that. One is just traffic.
Yeah.
Because the Merrimack River is so narrow, the mouth is so narrow. Even looking from jetty to jetty, it looks like a narrow river, but that is only half of that is navigable, or a quarter of that is navigable.
Yeah.
So the main boats, the big boats, come through only a quarter of that space.
Yeah.
So all that traffic is crushed into a quarter of a very small mouth.
Yeah.
So you have a traffic problem. It's a very big river. A lot of water is going out at mid-tide. You also have the shape of the mouth. It causes what's called standing waves. So you have these big waves that form in the mouth. So at times it could be like glass.
Yeah.
And at times it could be a lot of traffic, a lot of big waves, and really moving water.
Yeah.
So if you don't know that well, that's the place where you don't want to be.
Yeah. So who's coming into Plum Island? You have a lot of kids coming. You have young people getting into kayaking.
What we have is
pretty diverse.
Like two groups of guides.
Okay.
You're talking guides. You're talking clients.
I'm talking about clients. I'm talking about
Clients.
people who come in and say, "Hey, I just drove by. It's beautiful out. It's sunny. I need to get in a kayak."
When I first
Who are
opened up, I thought Newburyport, great location near the water. We're going to get the people walking by. They see us. They stop in. Hey, I want to go kayaking. We get hardly any of that. We don't get the people walking by. Hey, that looks like fun. Because the kayak, to go on a tour, even to rent a kayak, it's like a 3-hour commitment. On the water, you're going to get hot, you're going to get sweaty, you're going to get wet.
Yeah.
So in order to do that, you have to make a commitment and plan for it. So people walking by, very seldom do they come in the door and they go right then. They come back. They talk to us, they make a plan for the day, and they come back. If you look at the group of people that come in for tours, and you kind of generally segregate them into demographics, I would say the most common group of people that come in are the 30 to 50-year-old, and most of them, not most of them, I'd say about 80% of them are women.
Okay. Really? 80%? Why do you think that is?
80% of that group.
Okay.
It's not a 50-50.
And do you have any theories about why that might be the case?
I compare humans to orangutans.
Okay.
Orangutans are social animals, and are not social animals, especially the males.
Okay.
They're solitary.
All right.
I look at the male human as an orangutan.
Okay.
The only reason he'll come together with other males is watch football, maybe play cards, maybe drink beer, and then they're off on their own again.
Okay.
Women are totally different.
Yeah.
Women love to do things socially. Women come in groups all the time. So
okay, see, this is something I wouldn't have thought about because I'm an orangutan.
Yeah.
Right? I wouldn't think of being out on the boat. And this is actually one of my experiences from the Voyagers is I remember like when I finally got to be by myself. And I was wearing a Henry David Thoreau shirt, and I was like, I was, and then it was like, okay, now I'm finally doing this because I'm by myself and nobody's around, and suddenly everything gets very quiet. There's only a very small part of me that says, oh, kayaking, that's something I do with a whole bunch of other people, and we have a good time.
Men don't do that.
Yeah.
Men don't do it. You can look at like women that get together and have parties. They have parties for everything.
Yeah.
They have parties for, they have parties for jewelry. They have parties for underwear. They have parties, all kinds of things.
I've heard of this.
But now you heard of that.
Yeah, I've never attended an underwear party. But maybe we'll buck the trend.
Yeah.
But the thing,
maybe we'll have a Merrimack Valley Magazine underwear party.
If I was going to have a party and I was going to get together with a bunch of guys and sell Snap-on tools, would you show up?
Probably not.
Yes.
I very politely decline.
So if all your buddies get together and say, let's all go kayaking, it's a rare thing.
Yeah.
But one woman will come in with 4, 5, 6 friends.
Yeah. Okay. So why at that time? Why are they starting to do that? And is that because for some of them, the kids are kind of grown up and they have a little bit more free time and now they're looking to get back in shape? Is there an element of kind of health and wellness?
That age demographics. I think there's an element. The big element is the freedom, the age. Kids are older. The women and the younger women that have younger children, it's hard for them to get out.
Yeah. What do you hear all the time? Do people come in with certain concerns and fears that you hear over and over again? Like other than sharks, are certain things that people are worried about?
The local people. So if we get people from Boston and we get people from different countries or different states, they don't know anything about the Merrimack. So there's no fear of how powerful the river is.
Yeah.
The locals, they're concerned about, well, it's the Merrimack River, and I see it really moving along at times.
Right.
So we have to go through a little educational process. Don't worry, we know what we're doing. We're doing it a long time, and we go into the right places and get out the right places and go in the right places.
Yeah.
So I think it's an educational piece. Getting the people.
Yeah. If
you get people that are from out of town, they don't have any of that fear.
Okay. So beyond this demographic, you do also have kids classes, right? And you even have stuff going on over the summer that people can sign up for now, right? What do you do?
A small.
Are these like camps or like what are the programs like?
So a small piece of our business is we do reach out to younger kayakers, 8 to 14-year-olds.
Okay.
And we do a small camp. It's not our main focus. Our main focus is touring on the river. It's not some places are just kayak camps.
Okay.
We're not a kayak camp, so we do kids programs.
All right.
And we focus on the 2 age groups, 8 to 11-year-olds.
Okay.
Very young.
Yeah.
Just getting started.
Do you teach those?
I try not to.
You try not to, because they're a handful, right?
Well, the 12 to 14-year-olds, they're fun.
Oh.
They have capabilities. They know about the kayaking. They want to learn things. They're more serious.
Yeah.
The 8 to 11-year-olds, sometimes it breaks down to almost like babysitting.
Yeah.
Let's babysit them and put them on the water,
Yeah.
and the kids are just kind of goofy and loud. But it's fun for certain
Yeah.
groups.
My experience with kids who are like that, though, from other realms in like athletics or something, is even though they seem like they're kind of goofing off and there's a babysitting component, they're still slowly picking up skills that blossom into something else down the road. And sometimes you just never know.
Yeah.
You know, so that goofy kid doing karate or something like that at age of 8 and is just clowning around is still learning those moves. And is much better at karate at the age 15 than he would be if he hadn't been doing that at age 8. So there still has to be benefits to that.
Well, so our approach to the whole thing is not a lot of structure. We don't have a big curriculum. This is what we're going to do each day. It's more get the kids out there, expose them to the kayaking, let them have fun. We play games with them on the water. And we know that as they're playing games, as they're struggling, as they're moving around, they're learning their skills.
Right.
As the older kids, we can actually get and teach them. We have a little bit of a curriculum.
Okay.
and
So
we
what are they
teach them.
learning? What sort of things do they learn?
The older kids.
Yeah.
So the older kids, they have the ability to roll the kayaks over.
Is that what do they call that? Is that an Eskimo roll?
Well, that's
Or
a
is that
very
something
a
different?
very advanced skill, and that's probably something that a 10, 12-year-old wouldn't be able to get.
Okay. All right.
So we don't even attempt that. So,
So
we
you're
do
doing kind of safety.
safety.
Okay.
So what he calls a half of a roll.
All right.
So roll the boat over, feeling comfortable with that,
Yeah.
dumping out of the boat, falling out of the boat, rolling the boat over, just getting really comfortable with the boat actually falling over.
Yeah.
Getting out of the boat, knowing that you're not going to be trapped in the boat.
Yeah.
And
Do
then
these
how do
kids
you get
have to
back
know
in?
how to swim when they come into the program?
That's a very common question I get, or a remark. I can't swim, so I can't kayak. Or they'll say, I can swim, so I can kayak.
Yeah.
And I tell people, I don't care if you can swim or you can't swim. With a life jacket on, you cannot swim. So all you can do is maybe kind of float around and keep your head out of the water. Or your head's going to stay out of the water, but you can't swim.
Yeah.
So swimming is kind of irrelevant.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And we tell the kids at all times, whenever in the water, at all times, always wear a life jacket. So whether they can swim or not, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Is there a competitive sport around kayaking at all, or is this purely something people do for enjoyment to connect with nature?
So if you look at people that do what I do, a kayak outfitter, there's two general camps. One is to focus on recreation, and the other one is skill development. And I think you're talking skill development and more the sporting end and competitive end.
Yeah.
We don't deal with that much at all.
Okay.
Ours is all the recreational end.
All right.
So ours is my goal is to just get people on the water.
Yeah.
And I when I do my orientations, I tell them this all the time, is I've done a good job if I get you out in the water and you're smiling. You come back, you're smiling even more, and you're safe.
Yeah.
So if we bring you back, I don't care if you're a good kayaker, a bad kayaker. If you want to learn more skills, we can teach you that separately in a clinic or in private lessons.
Okay.
But if we take you out and you're happy, you come back and you're more happy, you want to do it again, and you're safe, then my job is done.
Okay.
But there are other people that take it very serious and they want to teach skill development. It's a very much smaller camp,
Yeah.
very specific, and we don't really focus on that end.
What are you doing in March? It looks like you have some programs in March where people are actually getting into the pools. What's that?
We used to do a lot of pool clinics when we first started up.
Okay.
And I've got away from that in the past maybe 4, 5, 6 years.
Yeah.
And the idea is we rent the local pool, which would be the YWCA in Newburyport, and we take small groups into the pool and we teach them rescue skills, maybe some advanced paddling techniques, all stationary. Obviously, you can't go paddling anywhere.
Yeah.
So in a stationary position, we can learn different techniques, and also the advanced Eskimo roll. People want to learn how to roll, and that's a very difficult skill.
Yeah.
We do teach that.
I knew nothing about kayaking when I thought I knew, because when I
you
went
went
to
on that trip?
Yeah, well, when I went to grad school ages ago down in Florida, the school, University of South Florida, I spent a couple of years there. Among other places I went to grad school, you could rent a kayak and you can go on the Hillsborough River. Very, very slow. Lots of great wildlife because you're right there with the alligators and the ibis and all these fantastic things. So it's like in my mind it was that, but I knew the Merrimack was faster. So I was watching YouTube videos, which messed me up because I was seeing, okay, well, if you're out there, you need to learn to do this. And I was seeing all these kind of crazy rolls and everything. And I think you immediately put to like, no, you don't have to worry about that sort of stuff. That's a little bit more advanced than what you're going to be facing.
You didn't tell me you had little experience.
I had a little bit. I had very well. I probably did, but I might have said it in a way, as a natural storyteller, that would have made it sound. But also from my experience, I did have experience. From my experience, I had experience because I was out there in the Hillsborough a lot.
Yeah.
But I was on the Hillsborough River, looking at wildlife, going at, I don't know. It's not miles per hour, but I could have cracked open a copy of Descartes and sat there reading philosophy while I was kayaking. That was the speed I was used to. So while the Merrimack River is not intense, if you think of it as like, going to Iceland or something like that, it's much more intense than the a leisurely paddle along the Hillsborough River in the spring.
Except for the alligators.
Well, the alligators are cool. I mean, the alligators in that part of Florida aren't dangerous. They're just interesting, and they'll the eyes sort of pop up over the water and they go back down. I went to Ocala State Park during breeding season, and they sort of casually told us, "Oh yes, you have to be careful. The alligators are a little bit cranky now." And I didn't understand what cranky means. Cranky means they chase you.
Oh.
So the first one, and there's hundreds of them. So we went over like a little kind of area. We brought it. We put the boat in the water, and the first alligator we saw was like this big, and that was the first alligator I had ever seen not in a zoo, not with a fence between me and the alligator. Right? In my heart, and even it was a little teeny thing, it started pounding. It's like totally primal experience of seeing this thing that was just there. And it was like, whoa, wow, that's intense. So we get in the water, we round the corner, and the banks are lined with alligators as far as you can see. And they're 12, like huge things. And we're going out there, and we're going past this big one, and it goes, and it lifts its leg like it's annoyed with us. And we just suddenly started getting more and more scared, and we're speeding up, and their eyes are starting to pop up on the water around us, and we're starting to imagine we're going over them. And it was very intense, but still not physically intense. And I was terrified, thinking, and they start chasing us, and I think that's because people sometimes throw peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and they give them food, and then they start to associate with food.
Oh,
so it does get actually dangerous. But we were, so we're doing this, and we're like, oh, this isn't too intense. We got to get out of there. And then we pass an older couple leisurely kayaking through the water like nothing's going on. And we realize, okay, we're scared because this is unfamiliar to us.
Yep.
So I don't think the alligators are, the likelihood of the alligators grabbing the kayak, flipping it in the air, and gobbling me down were probably pretty small. As exciting as that would have been, it did not happen, and I lived to tell the tale.
Ken, tell us a little bit about some of the varied tours, and what are some of the attractions along the Merrimack River that we're going to see on these tours?
So because we do the tours on the Merrimack, it's tidal. So we don't have the luxury of like being on a lake where we put a bunch of kayaks out, they go out, and they come back. So we always have to plan on the tour going with the current. What happens to the current within 2 or 3 hours? Does it stop? Does it peter out, turn, and come the other way? So we're constantly changing our routes. We don't go from point A to point B and then point B to point A. We're always looking at what is the tide doing today. It's different. It's on a 25-hour cycle. So it's not on a 24-hour cycle, so it's different every day. So we're constantly planning. Where do we go today? Do we go here? Do we go there? Do we go from here to there or there to here? So there's multiple put-ins and takeouts as far up the river. If you're familiar with Merrimack, Haverhill, Rocks Village, we'll take trips from Rocks Village down to the Amesbury area or the other way around. Or we could go from Amesbury down to across Joppa Flats, out to Plum Island, or the other way around, and then into Plum Island Sound. We do that a lot too.
Okay.
The problem with Plum Island Sound, that's probably the most requested place. Looks like the most beautiful, which I don't really think is the most beautiful. It's just lots and lots of grass, and more grass. I think there are prettier places on the river than in Plum Island Sound. But most people, they go across the Plum Island Turnpike Bridge, they look right and they see that giant marsh and they want to get in there. So people ask, they want to go into the Plum Island Sound, the most requested place to go. But we go in there the least because the greenhead flies. People hear about the greenhead flies, Plum Island, Newburyport, let's stay away from the area, and I have to go through another educational process. Greenhead flies are in the marsh only for 5 weeks. So when they're out between 4th of July and maybe mid-August, we don't go into the Sound. But we don't just close up shop and shut down. We stay on the river. We concentrate on other parts of the river where there are no flies. So flies, you got to kind of work around the flies. Right. Plum Island Sound, we don't even attempt to go in there from July 4th to mid-August.
The tours, some of the tours are themed, right? I think I mentioned horseshoe crabs.
Yeah.
And seals. So there are seal tours that you can do.
That's right.
Right? Are there other themes, and what are the? How does that work?
Most of our trips, the nuts and bolts of all our tours are the 2 and 3 hour tours, up and down different segments of the river. But these theme type tours that you've just mentioned, like seal paddles, we go out and see the seals, which are not really migratory, but they move around throughout the seasons. We have a lot of seals in the river in the spring and in the fall. So we do take trips out to see the seals. The horseshoe crabs, they spawn once a year. So these kind of onesie, twosie type trips, we'll take them out into Plum Island Sound when the horseshoe crabs are spawning. We'll do things like full moon paddles, which obviously once a month.
Yeah. So what I saw that on the website. What does that involve? What's the full moon paddle?
So the full moon paddle is a nice leisurely, slow moving, get out there at nighttime. A lot of people want to go out at night.
What do you do for lights? Do people bring flashlights? Do you tie a little something on the kayak, or how do you make that safe?
We give each client 1 or 2 lights that you can see 360, little mushroom type lights.
Okay.
We attach them to either the client or to the boat.
Yeah.
So we don't light up the water. It's not like a let's light everything up with some headlights and go. It's just each person can be identified and seen. The guides will have different colors.
Okay.
One of our nicest trips we do an all-day trip out to the Isles of Shoals. And that's a really, really nice trip.
Yeah.
It's probably our flagship paddle.
Okay. So what's so appealing about that? Is it the scenery, or is it what's?
It's just a gem that a local gem that most people don't get to see. It's very, very different. Most people that have gone to Isles of Shoals, they go into Portsmouth, they get on the Thomas Layton ferry, they ferry out to Star Island, they get off Star Island, they kind of do a little walking tour for maybe an hour or two, they get back onto the ferry and go back to Portsmouth. I charter a big boat, we take them out to Duck Island. There's 9 islands out there, not just that one. And Star Island, I think, is it's not as wild as the other islands. The other islands are more barren. Lots and lots of seals. The seals they have a nursery out there, and that's where all the seals have their puppies. So we lose all the seals in the river in the spring because all the females, most of them are pregnant, and they try to find more secluded places. So our colony in the river moves out to Star Island. That's where they have their puppies.
Yeah.
So when we get out there in July or August, after the puppies have been weaned, we get to get right in with all the seals, and we see the puppies, and we see the grown-up, the adult seals. So you see all the seals. You go over to Appledore Island, you go to Cedar Island, you go to Smutty Nose Island. So we do all the islands. And then because we charter a big boat, we have a nice big barbecue on the back of the deck. So it's just it's not a big paddle.
Yeah.
It's not a difficult paddle. But it's a big day. It's an all-day event.
So beyond the tours, for orangutans like me, who sometimes like to be by myself, people come in and rent individual kayaks, or just a few people come in. How does that work? How do they get back, given the tidal situation in the river, how do they get back to Plum Island kayak?
If you look at the overall business, 80% of it is roughly touring. So we like that. It's all in our control.
Yeah.
So a group of people come in, we know where they're going, who's going with them, where they're going to go out, where they're coming in. The timing is all up to us.
Yeah.
Easy to control.
Yeah.
When people rent, it's about 20% of the business. There's a whole learning curve we have to go through with each client, especially if they're not familiar with the river. We require they all have, if you're going to go out with us, you don't need any experience. You're with us, we'll take care of everything. If you want to rent a kayak and go out all by yourself, then we require that you do have some experience. We can't let you go out there and say, oh, I hope you can figure this out. I hope you can kayak and don't crash into things. We won't let you go out.
Yeah.
So if you have no experience, we won't let you go out. If you have some experience, we'll let you go out, but you need some of our guidance unless you really know what you're doing as far as the tides.
Yeah.
So people come in from, I keep picking on Boston. They come in, we start quizzing them a little bit. Have you ever kayaked in a river before? Oh, I have. Yes, I've kayaked in a river. What river? Charles River. Charles River is a bubbly swamp compared to the Merrimack. It doesn't do anything. So I tell them it's the Merrimack River. It's tidal. Do you know what tidal means? No, I'm not sure. Well, tidal, it's going to go this way for 6 hours. It's going to build speed, slow down, stop, then go the other way. So how are you going to come back? So we have to go through this whole educational process.
Yeah.
We tell them, if you're going to take the kayak out, you can't go out now. It's going too fast. You can go here or there. We can drive you here. We can drive you there. We have a shuttle service. We can put you in here. So we have to come up with a boating plan, each individual.
Yeah.
Go in here. Be careful. Go this way. Stick to the route we give you, and get out there. Come back to where you started. And if you can't come back, we'll go get you.
So there's going to be people listening now who have been interested in getting into kayaking. And the weather's getting warmer. Today's actually pretty nice and sunny. And they're starting to think about plans. It's like, oh, this is the summer I'm going to get into kayaking. Is there anything they can do now to start getting ready? Do you recommend like a gym routine? Do you recommend a fitness program? Like, what should people do this week to start getting ready for when spring is really here?
I think that people this time of year should start looking at their skills, in particular their safety skills. Most people, they hop in a kayak, they go down the river, they don't think about what's going to happen to me. It's in my head. I'm always thinking, what can go wrong? What can go wrong? So I'm constantly thinking about the crazy things that could go wrong. People don't normally think of that. They think, oh, I have my little 12-foot kayak with no safety features on the kayak. It's a beautiful day. The air is warm. The water's really cold. They don't think about what's going to happen if I fall out of my kayak. Then you ask them, can you get back in your boat? Oh, I can do it. I've seen a video. I think I can do it.
Yeah.
We teach these classes in the pool that we talked about earlier. And then my first approach is, okay, you think you can do it, roll the boat over and show me how you do it. And people are really surprised. Like, I really can't get in my boat unless I have a few tricks up my sleeve. Can you show me how to do it? So people should be assessing their abilities now.
So it's much more about skills than like deadlifting, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I see this when talking about the orangutan thing again.
Yeah.
I think.
What are you trying to say?
Maybe I'm sounding like a sexist, but I'm not.
All right. We'll let the audience judge.
Women, in my opinion,
yeah,
as a general group, are better kayakers than the men.
Okay.
The common things I see with the men, a big guy like yourself comes in and they think, well, it's all about brute strength.
Right.
I can just pull myself through the water, and they overpower everything. They're clumsy. They're heavy. It's not really, kayaking is not really how much strength can I, if you're racing, maybe strength's going to come in, but it's more finesse. And women are more in tune with that. It's the efficiency in the water, the paddle in the water. How hard do I stroke? My balance and all that. Women seem to have a little better balance than men. Are big guys. They're top heavy. They're like a weeble in the boat.
Yep.
Their shoulders pull them left and pull them right. A woman gets in the boat. And
Guilty as charged.
Yeah.
I was definitely a weeble in the boat.
So I think women are just naturally a little bit more inclined to kayaking than men are. So you should be thinking about what's going to happen to me when I fall in the water. Can I help myself?
Yeah.
Can I help my partner? Is my boat capable of doing certain things? If some boats, which is very important, if they roll over, you buy them at Walmart. You got a boat for $100 or $200. It doesn't have any features, any safety features built in, like bulkheads and hatches and deck lining. So when the boat rolls over, there's no bulkheads. It completely floods, and you think, big guy, I'm going to roll the boat over, I'm going to muscle everything, and I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to dump it out. But you forget to realize that it's maybe 50 gallons of water in there, 100 gallons of water. 100 gallons of water times 8 pounds a gallon, that's 800 pounds of water. Even a little baby boat, a little kid's boat, if it rolls over, you can't really dump that boat out if it doesn't have the proper bulkheads in it. So you should be looking at your boat, talking to me or somebody like myself that can assess the boat for you, assess your abilities, and then maybe start thinking about, I'll get out there in the spring a little bit more prepared.
Yeah.
The spring is the most dangerous time of year. Unlike, you think, spring, same weather as the fall. Fall is much more safe because you have the whole summer, the water's warm, the air gets cool. If you fall into warm water and cool air, it's not a big deal. In the spring, it's just the opposite. The water's very cold. and the air's warm. So people paddling along with their T-shirts and shorts on, they fall in the water. Now it's dangerous because you're prepared for warm
there's a
air.
real risk of like hypothermia.
Hypothermia, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So when May comes around, you got to start thinking about put your hand in the water, hold it in the water for a while, see how comfortable that is. Do I want to jump in water like that?
What do people wear? Special gear or what? I mean, I guess you're not supposed to be wearing a T-shirt in the spring.
Well, in the spring, because again we cater to the recreational paddlers.
Yeah.
So we're always worried about because recreational paddlers won't come in all prepared with dry suits and wetsuits and boots and all that.
Right.
So we have to kind of assess them, kind of coach them when they call us to book a tour. Synthetic materials. Don't wear army boots. Water shoes. And if it's early in the season when we think the water is too cold, we have to minimize the chance of falling in. So we look at maybe we insist at certain times only tandem kayaks. A tandem kayak can roll over, but it's a very, very rare event. So we try to minimize the chance of somebody falling in the water when it's really cold.
Yeah. So how do people get in touch with you? Your website's plumislandkayak.com.
That's right.
Is that right? And the
Kayak,
best thing is to probably go take a look there or give you guys a call and get suited up and start looking at adventures on the river this summer.
That's right. Yeah. One thing you didn't mention, which I'm very excited about,
Okay.
is Haverhill.
Okay.
So now
What's going on in Haverhill?
So we're extending our operation into Haverhill.
I didn't ask about this because I don't think I knew about
You
it.
didn't know about it?
No, what's going on?
Yeah. So I'm very excited about it. There's a lot of support in Haverhill.
Okay.
The mayor's been very, very supportive. He's actually donating some space for me right on the river in Haverhill.
Yeah.
So we're going to be extending our reach up to downtown Haverhill.
Wow.
So we'll be touring from Haverhill and renting in Haverhill
Okay.
all the way down to the ocean.
Oh, that's fantastic. And when does that start?
So we're scheduled to open there around the 4th of July, if everything
All right.
goes well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Excellent. Lou, do you have any questions for our guests before we talk about next week's show?
You had mentioned kayaks taking on water and dealing with them. Do you guys deal with sit-on-top kayaks? Or how do you feel about them? How appropriate are they for the Merrimack?
Yeah, we do have sit-on-top kayaks. But the problem with the sit-on-top kayak, unlike a sit-inside kayak, is if we mix them, if we do a tour, and we put in some sit-on-tops and then mostly sit-inside, the relative speed is so much different. Now, a person in a sit-on-top is going to feel as though, I'm working so hard to keep up with the rest of the tour. So we don't like to mix sit-on-tops.
So it's more difficult to keep up speed with a sit-on-top. Oh, interesting.
It's just the relative speed.
Yep.
Now we do rent a lot of sit-on-tops. It's really a preference.
Yeah.
If you're a really big person, a sit-on-top is the way to go because you have a lot more room, a lot more ease to get in and out.
They don't take on water. That's why I like them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fishermen love the sit-on-top, so we do rent a lot of sit-on-tops to fishermen.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Got to worry about the sunburns, though.
got to worry about the sunburn.
I was sitting in the kayak, and there was like a little place on the top of my legs
I know
where the
exactly
sun
where.
hit.
Yeah.
And I had these triangles of sunburn for like 3 weeks after the Voyager's expedition. It hurt for a long time.
I laugh 'cause
Where's your rental place in Haverhill when the operation begins?
So the right in downtown Haverhill on Washington Street, there's a parking lot behind the tap,
Oh, yeah.
and there's municipal docks there.
Oh, I didn't.
So we're going to have a shack put there for us to operate out of, and the boats will be right on the municipal dock.
Nice.
We're renting right there.
There you go.
Cool.
Have a drink at the tap. Go down to Michael's. Get a ride back, right?
Let's do it. It sounds fun.
Yeah.
So, anyways, thank you so much for coming in to the 495, and it was great talking with you. And I hope we've inspired some people to get out there and check out the river. Next week, our guest is going to be Edith Maxwell. Do you know who Edith Maxwell is?
No.
If you were a mystery novel fan, you would know this person because she's a very popular mystery novelist, and she's up for a big Agatha Christie Award. So we're very, very excited to have her on. I'm really, really looking forward to it. And we're also going to be profiling her in the March issue, so you'll be reading about her in an article by Bonnie Mason as well in a few weeks. So anyways, Lou, thank you so much. Ken, thank you. I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you very
All right,
much.
man.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Right on.
It's been a lot of fun.